Good morning there. Um, Welcome. We're going to meditate. We're going to engage. We're going to get connected to the present moment, begin our day. Um, I'm glad you're here, and whatever time you're joining us, uh, welcome. I do want to mention just a few things before we jump right into our practice. We kind of live in a golden age of psychotherapy. And there are so many things that have changed and developed since I first became a therapist back in the early 1990s. We just are pedaling fast to kind of keep up with everything we're finding out from brain science, neuroscience, even kind of exploration of philosophy and different aspects of psychology that kind of got sidelined at the beginning of psychology, which isn't that old of a profession or that old of a field of study. And some of the more unique aspects or beautiful aspects really point to the fact that our awareness is such a dynamic gift, and where we live, our own being is so flexible and so changeable, and that the main thing that changes things is awareness, and that's why things like psychotherapy do work, or spiritual practices, they do work, because if we bring awareness to things that are going on within us that may have been there for a while, may have become automatic, things can change a lot, dramatically. So no one has to remain stuck. Although it is our tendency to become stuck, we don't have to stay there. And help is available. And one of the other things I really appreciate is that we are now fully aware that mental health doesn't just lie in some kind of vacuum of self. It doesn't just lie in some place where I go work on myself. There is some space for that, solitude and self-exploration, very valuable. But in the end, we're mentally healthy in our relationships and in our engagement with our life. One of the most beautiful ways of thinking about mental health, and one of the most beautiful therapies, is something called ACT. ACT. They call it ACT. They don't like it to be called ACT. Everybody has their preferences. And the reason it's called ACT is because it's based in finding the health that allows you to take action in your life around your values and things that matter. And ACT also stands for acceptance and commitment therapy. So there's kind of a paradox in this therapy, which is that your life begins to change as soon as you accept it completely as it is. So there's this acceptance paradox, which is, David Burns, another therapist, put it this way, not the Talking Heads guy, but the therapist in the 70s, still around, but he's older now, wonderful man. He said that radical or complete acceptance of yourself is the most profound change you'll ever experience. So transformation begins by changing nothing except becoming aware in an accepting way of self. And I think of it this way, that until that occurs, until I'm really, if this is me, and this is my awareness, and this coming together as a place of acceptance, it's almost like my awareness or my ability to do things in the world is always a couple of feet off the ground. There's no traction until I come down into who I am, just as I am right now. then I can actually feel something and make things happen. I can actually begin to move from there with that, not fighting it, not condemning it, not criticizing it, not distancing from myself, but actually connecting to myself. And that therapy act is one of the, therapies that really does rely on mindful awareness as the one of the primary engines of change and growth. Another thing you can explore, there's an endless amount of resources available for growth and change in our world today. And the truth is, if you can't, I've been in places in my past where I couldn't afford therapy, couldn't find the good therapy. There are tons of informal support groups, and there's things like this. There's places where you can join with others. You can read a book. You can read a book with people. Now that's a new idea, right? If you have 2 or 3 friends and you say, hey, can we read this book together and talk it through? And sometimes that's enough. So we can help each other. It's a lot that I think about. Today, we're going to go back to body and breath meditation. And let's think about it this way before we get started, that my life from here today, I can do things with it, can take action around the values that I cherish, as well as I'm connected to myself just as I am in this moment. So this isn't, one of the things I really like to remember is that mindfulness is not necessarily a stress relief. It can be. There's mindfulness-based stress relief. That's a real thing. But it's not meant to just put me on a cloud. It's meant to equip me for the nitty-gritty of life, engagement, taking action. I especially think this is important, that sometimes meditation might look like the luxury of the elite, those who can afford to sit around and do nothing for a little while. Well, I actually think it's the necessity of anybody who's oppressed or impoverished or struggling, is to give themselves the gift, if they can. And we can make sure that our practice is not kind of idealized as some whoop-de-doo thing. And we want to make sure, especially as we're meditating on wisdom that influences democracy, that we're practicing in a way that equips us for engagement. And that we're mindful that entering our own being with acceptance means entering the real world as it is, and it's kind of a mess. We've got huge problems. People are suffering with those problems. You're suffering, I'm suffering. Our children are suffering. People that aren't like us are suffering with the mess and the problems that we have. And these are all things that need effective energy and solutions, and need people who are aware, people who have really entered into themselves as a starting point. So I know it's a lot to take in. And still we come back to the practice, which is paying attention to body and breath. And today, let's be gentle on that. Let's open up to that practice. And then let's meditate a little bit on this sense of being engaged with the world and with ourselves from that place. So taking a moment to find your posture. And like we've been doing this week, checking in with yourself in an open way to your whole being, body, thoughts, feelings, the sense of your own energy. Noticing yourself grounded in this moment where you sit or lie down. Establishing an attitude of receptivity to what's going on with you. Receiving yourself with interest. And then narrowing your awareness, bringing it to focus on your breath, especially as it moves in your belly. Taking in the expansion and the contraction of your belly as you breathe. No need to quiet your mind or do anything else, as everything else can become background. It can stay there, it's okay. If there's thoughts or other stimuli, just bringing the awareness to the belly, expanding and contracting with breath. And then opening up to the way the breath could be experienced as filling the whole body, and all the sensations of the body. all the way down to your feet, legs, filling your torso, your chest and shoulders and back, your arms and hands, your neck and head and face. And see if it's possible just to open up to the whole body and all of its sensations, receiving that, letting it come to you. And then practicing for a little while of silence. Keeping awareness with the body and the breath, while thoughts and concerns may continue to play, but in the background, your mind is like a radio playing in the background. It may be quiet or it might be busy, doesn't matter. Your attention is on your body and your breath as best as it can be in this moment and each moment. And it's okay to let your awareness be playful, zooming in on specific experiences happening in your body, and zooming out and taking the whole of your body in, exploring, noticing. There's no right thing to notice. There's no right experience to have. Whatever is given in this moment to you. Coming back to the body and the breath. And if you wish, you can stay with this body and breath awareness and introduce some simple words into your process. On the in-breath, thinking these words, I am present. On the out-breath, I belong, or where I belong. Letting these words bring an attitude of willingness and openness to be right here where you are as you are. I'm present where I belong. And just being with that for a while, noticing how that affects you. Noticing how these words resonate in your body and breath. And it may be true for you that being fully present and accepting your belonging to this moment, belonging to your people, to your place in the world, is the perfect place to get in touch with a readiness to act on what matters. So checking in with that. You've reflected before on what matters to you the most, what you care about, what you're here to engage. and seeing what it's like to consider what matters, and even acknowledging that right now you're taking action by being here when you could be doing other things, sleeping a bit longer, or looking at social media, or anything else, things that would be more fun. But here you are taking action so that you're prepared to do what matters today. And for a little while, releasing all of the words and all of the content of this meditation, letting it go. Just returning to a simple body and breath awareness, feeling your feet on the floor, feeling yourself connected to the ground beneath you. Fully present in your own body, breath by breath and moment by moment. It's very possible that this meditation has brought you to a place of quiet where you want to turn off this video feed and just be with yourself. And if not, we can just kind of close by saying that it is a whole different experience to engage life, to be prepared, being prepared to respond in a valued way, fully present, accepting the moment, doing what's needed in that moment. And that's what we could wish for each other as we end here. We could wish that each of us has the ability to stay present, to respond. And if difficulty comes our way, that we would respond from this place of acceptance and connection that we're nurturing in our practice. Those responses are much more valuable than reactions from a place that isn't grounded. I know we've all done that. I have. So have a great Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday. We're counting down. Let's hope our nation responds from an engaged, powerful place, taking action on what matters, because a lot of things matter right now. See you Monday.